What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Real Talk NFT, where we talk all things Web3. Super excited to have my first female guest ever and international guest, may I add. She's in Hong Kong, Veronika Mar, and she is doing wonders in the Web3 space with architecture and building. I'm going to have her introduce herself really quickly and tell us and the audience, how did you get into the space? And you are the founder of The Future is Meta. And tell us about, how you came up with that.
Thank you very much. Thanks. Hi, guys. My name is Veronika. So I'm originally an architect. I designed buildings around the world. I come from Poland, but I lived in New York. I lived a little bit in the Netherlands before moving to Hong Kong. So throughout my original architectural career, I had the chance of working around on buildings of different scale and size, until I realized that actually technology is moving forward and there is this whole new world that we will need to build, which is the metaverse. And I believe the metaverse is an evolution of internet, a 3D version of internet. So spaces will be very important. That's why I started Future is Meta. And we continue to build and explore what the metaverse opportunities are.
Right. There are so many different definitions for it. Like my head is spinning, but you do something very specific, which is designing in real life and also designing it within the metaverse. So you have very applicable skills. And we've seen that you worked on some projects, even within the NFT landscape with Decentraland and Sandbox. Can you tell us about how you even, did you contact companies or someone reached out to you to design something?
Yeah. So it actually started by me really finding projects and talking to people about potential, applications of scenes in Decentraland. But as soon as it turned into an actual company as Future is Meta, we decided to bring existing brands and build their presence in the metaverse in general. So part of it is really analyzing their needs, their branding, and then based on that, deciding which platform we need to build in, what comes along with it. Because sometimes there is an NFT collection, sometimes there is a loyalty program that's linked to this 3D space in the metaverse, and to the, of course, coming from the brand. So this really now works, as every company. Some people, which I very welcome, come to us. Sometimes we find companies and approach them. So right now we actually work with really every industry on Earth. I think it's really exciting to experiment, because so many things have not been done there, like in the metaverse yet. So it's really a great opportunity. And since everything in the metaverse is an NFT, then it's a lot of fun also.
Yeah, tell us about. I looked a small peek at your portfolio. I see that you've done things with women empowerment on there on Web3. And more interesting to me was the meditation, the healing world. Can you tell us about that?
Oh, yeah. So we try to step away from this. I think the risk is now that people consider metaverse as, the same thing as gaming, because the aesthetics very often are similar. And then it's maybe treated a little bit more like in the entertainment pocket rather than real needs. So we really try to find companies and partners to work with on developing solutions that would help in some ways, or that would really put the metaverse on the map of industries that maybe initially were not the most obvious, like healthcare, healing. So the world that we built in VRChat is for actually alternative healing practice in Hong Kong.
Mm-hmm.
And we created it so it's accessible in the Facebook headset Oculus, and on the laptop. And you can go to this very quiet 3D world and listen to guided meditations. There are certain spaces where you can listen to guided meditations, or you can book a journey with the therapist. And the experience. So what happened during COVID is that the therapists would meet over Zoom, which is fine, but then there wasn't this sense of being in the same room, which you can get when you're in VR headset. So actually, it is an interesting solution, especially if someone works, around the world. People, can travel at the speed of light. This is actually how we can be in many places in the same time. So also group sessions are possible in virtual reality, which we're exploring that, and it's really exciting.
Wow, that's very exciting to hear, because a regular therapist in a regular room, you just imagine like the same standard, right? I wouldn't say it's boring. It might be exciting for some people, but standard wise, it's like a couch that you can lay on, and then the therapist is behind the desk. Or maybe there's some more interactive physical locations. But in terms of the metaverse, how do you control your imagination? Because there's so many things you can do. Does the client kind of come in and have just like a few bullet points of what they want? How do you navigate that? Because you built a couple of things on a lot of different platforms already. You have like a framework of how you help the clients through this, and how users have a good experience.
So I really like when clients have a strong idea, but stay open-minded, which happily is usually the case so far. But what we do, we try to build a mix of things in terms of this, how the spaces look like, a mix of what's real and what's not, to really use the fact that there is no gravity in the metaverse. There are very different constraints. No plumbing, but the file size has to be very small. So there are constraints. Actually, often people, I think, overlook that, and they're like, "Oh, you can build anything. Why don't you build something like that or like that?" But the file size and the limitations to to make it accessible to everyone, to load quickly, they are quite special. It's like some scenes are the size of an email attachment, and of course we need to include the game, an interaction, and a beautiful detailed building, etc. So a lot of information goes into it, and packing it in a small file is a challenge. But so I guess that actually helps in a way, in terms of how not to go too big, where to stop. For me, usually working with some constraints is good. And I think now I'm sure that this idea of mixing reality and fantastic, some lifting buildings off the ground or making them spin, adding a little bit of something what people are familiar and what they're not.
Yeah, that's something that is different for every platform, like you mentioned, or every different technological advancement that we have. Because VR is one thing, and as you mentioned, there's kind of like a melding of that with AR nowadays, right? You have augmented reality. So what do you see the more adoption? I have asked a few people this. Is more people putting on the goggles, or logging onto a desktop, or having their phone out and looking at augmented reality? What have you seen out there?
So I see two groups. I think it's two slightly different audiences. One is strictly laptop based and expects everything to just open up with a click. And
that's me.
Probably me too in most cases. Of course, this is the most, we're looking for easy solutions, right? So those reach the most of us. And even those who are, maybe not that interested. But then there is another group which is growing very fast, the VR users. And, I don't work for Facebook, or I'm not like affiliated with them, but I have to mention the Oculus headset was the best selling present like a year ago for Christmas. So I mean, I see a lot of people have it. Whenever I mention VR and the price is actually really okay, many of my friends bought it. So I see a lot of users who explore this completely virtual space. But it is in a bit of a, like, you have to be really a little bit like into this space, I think, to be keen. Broader adoption is only on laptops still.
Yeah, I would have to agree. For me, it's laptop. And then I skipped over VR personally. I don't own an Oculus, so I'm not sponsored by Facebook. And I do use AR. I wouldn't say every day, but more and more present in my life now. I've seen applications for that. So I would definitely want to try out VR. I sound like a very old fogey because I'm probably one of the only friends that don't have an Oculus.
Well,
but I would.
You'll be in Hong Kong, so I'll take you on a VR tour in Hong Kong. We have an amazing, like, apart from like my office, which you're very welcome to, we have this amazing place called the company is called Sandbox VR. It's an entertainment venue where you come with a group of friends. They give you a room. They give you all the sensors, etc., a good quality headset, and you play games designed by them, where you see your friends as avatars while you're in the same group. But it's done in such a realistic way. They have fans that make you feel like there's wind blowing. Sometimes like I almost get goosebumps because the games are done in a way that you almost feel like you're flying or you're standing on moving platforms while still being in the same room. So it's a bit freaky.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of use cases, especially in Hong Kong. It's such a dense population. Space is limited. And I see that you've done something with the Bank of Poland, right? The Bank of Polski. And that is an interesting use case that would make me purchase a VR headset because I hate waiting in line at the bank or the DMV. Has there been interesting use cases that you've either seen with, your work with the Bank of Polski or other of those that you've had?
Yeah. So this is our primarily focus right now is really to find real use cases for to help with real struggles. Like real estate, is very expensive. Renting bank branches, no one likes to go there. You have to travel to it and etc. So actually expanding the online presence for banks is an excellent idea. And through it, the experience can be, better, can be, you can faster get to the consultants, etc. It is the next generation of websites, basically. So what we did, PKO Bank Polski is a very forward-thinking company. They are experimenting. So with this project that we did in October, that I remember I spoke to you about, we announced us and them announced their 10-year strategy for the metaverse, and the next 2 years is all about exploration. And then within the 10 years, they want to bring like real world branches. Not all of them, of course, probably, but at least I believe the idea is that bringing real world branches in some form to the metaverse. So you could be in Hong Kong and go to the Bank of Poland, right? So for me, it would be an amazing use case. But there's many, many more, including the fact that you feel much more like you can see the people that are experiencing this with you. So what's happening on bank websites, they're so boring. Like you don't see anyone. I don't know. People, you may get confused. If you want to call the call center, it takes who knows how long, etc. Also, you need 2 devices to go to the website, and then to call the call center, you probably need at least 2 devices. Well, in the metaverse, you have these non-player characters that can answer your questions. You can have a more natural interaction with bank employees. So for now, we built like a proof of concept, the building. We brought their landmark building that they own in Warsaw to Decentraland. And it is slightly adjusted with their permission. So the building is actually hovering above the ground. And we're adding functionalities to it over time. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'll definitely share with all the listeners who can't see it the link that
Sure.
Veronika's portfolio lives. And it's fascinating because you, to me, seem like a technological genius, because it seems like you have to learn a lot of different programming to build across all these platforms. Tell us about that transition. How'd you go from, how was it? Was it, the language is completely different, I imagine, or is it quite similar, designing in the real world and across all these platforms? It sounds really intimidating to me.
Oh, yes. However, it was a bit, at first, very difficult to start, very difficult to find out. But I think in terms of design, it's a really fascinating topic for me. Exploring what can be, this is a blank slate, so anything seems to be possible. And few people have done it, especially very few architects are in this space. So for me, it is learning about these new constraints. It was, at first it was a hobby. So I didn't mind spending the time on it. In fact, it all happened when I took a longer break at work after finishing one of the real world projects, and I was supposed to rest. But I started reading what was very helpful. Decentraland platform has incredible libraries where they describe many things in detail. And based off that, once you kind of start understanding one of the virtual worlds, the other ones are they're all different, of course, but they have a lot of similarities. You know what to look for, etc. So but that's only one part. The other part is the programming and the gaming, which I can't give myself credit. My CTO, Luke, is taking care of that side. So the genius is there. I just make pretty building.
Oh, that sounds like the fun part. Yeah, the difficult part definitely seems like integrating, like you said, all those interactions and activations with the consumer, and then on the back end with whatever back information they have with the brand. So, yeah, that sounds like you have the fun job.
I have.
Is there any? Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. So, and especially when it comes to building like banking, services or something on top of like some things that haven't been done in the metaverse yet. That's on the programming side. That's also a challenge because each of these like elements that a client may think it's this is like I do it every day, right? In real life. Why I also want to do it in the metaverse. People often want to like bring one-to-one copy of what they do in reality. And yeah, it is very, very difficult sometimes.
Wow. It seems like you have more experience here than a lot of, people in the Web3 space. And what's your vision of what the metaverse can be in your definition? Because, the metaverse can mean a lot of things. Where do you see it going, 5 years from now? I know we covered a lot of it today, but are there any, big wishes that you want for, upcoming in the metaverse or even in design, maybe just even in the physical world?
Yeah, I really hope that maybe that more people will see the current phase of the metaverse as this time to explore and be a little bit less judgmental of what's going on, because it's kind of like, I feel like it's kind of like judging, of course, I always make reference to buildings, but like judging a building during construction phase. Like you can't really tell what it looks like while the scaffolding is still in front of it. So I feel this way a little bit about the metaverse. Many parts are already built and they're interesting to explore, but the whole thing hasn't been connected yet, and it's not it's nowhere near being finished. So I think the general, audience, I would be glad if there was less maybe these misleading articles about what it is or what it isn't. Should we be scared of it, etc. Yeah.
No, definitely shouldn't be scared of it. And I think you're doing amazing things that has real world use case. I know South Korea is already implementing a metaverse for their government to operate in. I know Andy Moko just announced a $2 billion metaverse fund, and they're in Singapore right next to you. I think Dubai or somewhere in the Middle East, they announced the same thing, a really ridiculous, huge fund for the metaverse. So it's definitely not going anywhere. You're on the right path, and all the cynical people, they might be left behind.
Yeah, I mean, so there was, I think it's Citibank, if I'm correct, that released this report where they think that by 2030, every user of the internet will be using metaverse. Like this is just a smooth transition into this 3D version of internet. So a lot of money is going this way, and there will be a lot of work around it and a lot of opportunities, I hope.
Yes, I'm excited. I'm pretty sure I'm going to step into a forum or a design that you created one day. I'm pretty sure of it, since you're so ahead of the game.
Thank you.
And utilize a lot of those functions. And I can't wait to have you back. I mean, like we all say, we say this a lot here on this podcast, that 1 week, 1 month in NFTs or Web3s is like 7 years in real life. And I just can't imagine the conversation we're going to have a year from now. So super excited, for what you're doing already, for, design in the architect world, and for women in Web3. And big things ahead for you, definitely. We would love to have you back here to talk about those things.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for hosting this. If anyone has, ever questions about Metaverse, bringing brands to the Metaverse, building your presence, or anything related, I'm happy to answer. Please, my email. I think you'll share. So I'm here. I'm here. Happy to chat about this anytime.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Veronika.
Thank you.